You're listening to the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
This is the weekly Firecast, episode 42, interview with Chef Doug Crane of Dragon's Blood Elixir. The weekly Firecast is sponsored in part by Audible.com. You can download a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/Firecast. With over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player, there's bound to be something for you.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, chili head and barbecuer, Scott Roberts.
Thank you very much, and a big hearty welcome to all you chili heads and barbecuers listening today. Again, I am your host, Scott Roberts, blogger, podcaster, and writer for Chili Pepper Magazine, bringing you the only coverage in podcast land on fiery foods, hot sauce, chili peppers, barbecue, grilling, smoking, and more. This week's episode is a very special treat. I'm going to be chatting with one of the most underrated and underappreciated craft hot sauce makers in the business today. Now, when a lot of hot sauce fans think of genius flavor combinations, genius flavor profiles, and a prolific output, names like Cajun and Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns come to mind. And if you're a little bit more into the whole fiery foods realm, you might be thinking of Chad Lowcock of Ray City Sauce Works as all-around flavor geniuses. But in my mind, someone who has a true grasp on unique flavor when it comes to hot sauce and has a very prolific output, one name comes to mind, and that is Chef Doug Crane of Dragon's Blood Elixir. Now, Doug and Dragon's Blood Elixir has been around for a couple of years. When I first sampled any of his products, it was on video. And I think it was about 3 years ago. So if you look at my YouTube channel at youtube.com/users/Scott Roberts Web, you can do a search for that, for Dragon's Blood Elixir. But anyway, I believe it was the very first time I'd opened a bottle of any of his products. So what you see on camera is my very first initial reaction, and I was absolutely blown away. To say that it was a pleasant surprise would be to put it very mildly. And his original Dragon's Blood Elixir had such a tasty and addictive blend of flavors, peppery, a little bit of smokiness, but he also employed sweetness masterfully. The guy knows his stuff, and of course he's not a one-hit wonder. There's a lot of other great products he's come out with. I mean, there is the unique Destiny Jolokia sauce that has a little bit more of the smoky Jolokia flavor. There's what he calls the condiment from hell, basically an all-purpose condiment, kind of like a replacement for ketchup. It's got a little bit of horseradish, a little bit of spicy mustard, but just product after product. It's some kind of, I wouldn't say limited edition, but some he just kind of put out there to kind of dip his toes in the water. I've been just blown away by how fantastic everything tastes. So whenever I first decided to start up this podcast, he's been one of the people I've been wanting to feature, and my friend and fellow chili head and blogger Firehead Thomas Gately kind of egged me on a couple times, kind of gave me the push. It's like, Scott, you have to get Chef Doug Crane on the show. It's like, I totally plan to. So finally, it is my utmost privilege to present that interview, short and sweet, but you'll get that in its entirety later in this episode. And in the Kids Fiery World segment, I speak to blogger and chili head Ken Alexander, and we talk about hot sauce blogs. Yes, another topic near and dear to my heart. So probably in that segment, I talk a little bit more than normal. Usually I let Ken just kind of run and speak with whatever is on his mind that week. Anyway, since I've been around the block when it comes to the blogging world a couple more years, I kind of give a brief synopsis, a brief history, if you will, of hot sauce blogs. And for those of you newer chili heads out there who think that the hot sauce community is only something on Facebook or a social media site or something such as a YouTube channel, well, a few years before all that took off, everyone congregated around spicy food blogs, hot sauce blogs specifically. So we talk about that, talk about some of the top ones that still exist nowadays. And there are some, besides mine, scottrobertsweb.com, that we heartily recommend all the chili heads listening to this to go and visit on a regular basis. My product review of the week is Johnny Secreto Craft BBQ Sauce. So I'm not going to have any housekeeping notes this week. I want to get right to the segments here on the Weekly Firecast, part of the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
And now, the review of the week.
My product review of the week is Johnny Secreto Craft BBQ Sauce. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Johnny Secreto? Johnny Secreto? Anyway, here's another kind of sweet, tangy, tomato-based barbecue sauce. And this one is based out of Rockford, Michigan. It comes in a 12-ounce bottle. Label is kind of a mishmash between different things. A little bit classy, a little clean, a little plain in a way. There's a little black and white picture of somebody that looks like a very young Frank Sinatra with kind of a baseball cap on his head, kind of tipped over one eye. So it looks like maybe a 1930s photograph, black and white. It says Johnny Secreto, Johnny Secreto. But anyway, the sauce itself, a nice medium brown color. It's also medium in consistency, not very thick, not very watery either. And it's just speckled and highlighted with a lot of black flakes. We can assume it's black pepper of some kind. It's not clumpy, chunky, pulpy at all. It's pretty smooth. So look-wise, it's neither spectacular nor is it lackluster. It's somewhere in between. More important than just the appearance and texture is the flavor of it. And by itself, it's very tomatoey, a little sweet, very tangy, and immediately you start thinking tomato ketchup. And lo and behold, I look, and the first ingredient is, extra thick ketchup. And it contains other things like brown sugar, apple cider vinegar, water, Worcestershire sauce, liquid smoke. Big red flag there, but I'll get to that in a second. Garlic powder, onion powder, other spices, and contains soy and fish because of the Worcestershire sauce. About the liquid smoke, if you know me well, if you've read my reviews in the past years, if you've heard my reviews, I am not a fan of liquid smoke at all. Thankfully, this does not really have much of a smoky flavor, let alone an artificial smoke. So in that regard, it's okay in my book. It is very tomatoey, very tangy, a little sweet. So if you like your sauces, maybe a little bit on the Kansas City side, Carolina vinegar twang, this would be probably something you would like. But I think what they were aiming for is that general mass market audience. It really does not venture toward one particular flavor profile. It's probably meant to be enjoyed by a lot of people. It's a good sauce. I found that it caramelizes and thickens up quite well on the grill once heat is applied. That's a good thing because I don't like runny sauces at all. But I think one of the best ways to describe the flavor profile is non-offensive. Most people would probably like it. Unless you're one of those oddballs who go totally towards the mustard side of things, or totally towards the peppery end of the flavor spectrum, if you can call it that, then it would probably please you. Unfortunately, it doesn't strike me as anything spectacular. That could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. It just really depends on what the makers of the sauce were aiming for. I mean, if I didn't have anything else around and I just wanted to please everyone, all of my dinner guests when I happen to be grilling or barbecue, I might pop open this bottle and put this on some of the grilled meat or some of the smoked meat from my barbecue smoker. But is it one of my favorites? No, nowhere close to that. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a little too bland and normal for my taste. So on a flavor scale of 1 to 5, I would give this 2.5 stars. But if you're interested in trying the sauce for yourself, you can go to the website at johnnysecreto.com, and the Secreto is spelled SECRETO.com. Or you can just click the link in the show notes for episode 42.
And now, Ken's Fiery World.
Joining me once again on the Skype chat line is Chilihead blogger and reviewer Ken Alexander. How you doing tonight?
Great, Scott. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Finally getting back into the swing of things after a little move.
I know. We moved around a good bit there in the late 90s and 2000s and mid to late 90s. And it's one of the top 5 stressors for people. So you don't sound too stressed. So that's great.
For a couple weeks there, I was highly stressed. It's not like the littlest thing set me off, but my girlfriend could tell you that, once I got in a bad mood, I was a little grumpy there for a little while. But I'm doing good. Things are finally calming down.
That's great. That's great. Well, here we're going to talk tonight about hot sauce and spicy food blogs.
Yes, and it's a big topic. Now, a lot of people, and I'll go ahead and talk here for a couple minutes, Ken.
Sure.
Since I was kind of there back in the day, so to speak.
Yeah.
A lot of people nowadays, they will kind of look at YouTube. They'll look at hot sauce videos as the kind of go-to places. Well, several years ago, hot sauce blogs were the destination online whenever somebody wanted to see reviews, see interaction in the communities. I mean, this is before MySpace, let alone Facebook and Twitter and everything like that.
Right.
This is where the people went. Now, back in the mid-2000s, 2004, 2005, there were a couple of sites that kind of sprung up. One was the Hot Zone Online, which is still kind of moving along. That was run by Joe and Linda Levinson. It still is. But the big dog was Hot Sauce Blog, which is still up at hotsauceblog.com. Now, back then, once it really, the word about the site kind of spread out, you would find people like Blair and K-John and all the other smaller industry manufacturers kind of jump on there. And somebody could make a blog post and a review, and something would get 80 comments.
Wow.
Just in the comments, a community developed. And this is where the really first online communities kind of sprung to life. I don't want to say the first ones. I mean, there were bulletin boards and message boards with chili growers and everything like that. I don't want to slight them at all. But when it comes to the really close-knit hot sauce communities, it was hotsauceblog.com. Now, if there was some grumbling and infighting, guess what? It's the internet. You're going to have that anyway.
Right.
It kind of developed 2006, 2007, 2008. People kind of started to split off, create their own hot sauce blogs. And the webmaster of Hot Sauce Blog, Nick Lindauer, kind of decided to change the whole format of the Hot Sauce Blog to where it was a very restricted community site. You had to sign up for a membership. It was free, but that membership, that exclusivity, really kind of strangled the life and the community out of the Hot Sauce Blog. It kind of lay in limbo for a couple years, and it was like last year that he finally decided to turn it back into a big public blog everyone could see. And if anyone's on there right now, it's very active with posts. I mean, there's lots of reviews, lots of posts, but it doesn't look like there's any community there. I don't want to run it down, but it's just kind of lifeless at this point. But there's still probably a lot of good content. But back when all the hot sauce blogs and communities were splintering, 2008, 2009, that's when the blog for fiery foods, they were flourishing. And you had sites like my own ScottRobertsWeb.com, Hot Sauce Daily. There was a site called TasteOfFear.com. Of course, the Hot Zone Online that I mentioned, a minute ago, that was flourishing. Al Buddha Goldenberg, who was a reviewer for Taste of Fear, started his own I Love It Spicy, which kind of focused on the videos. And that's when it was around 2009, 2010 when videos started to become a big deal in the whole hot sauce world. And then you saw a lot of other kind of blogs spring up and then kind of die out after a year. I mean, it's the nature of the internet. You're going to find a lot of that. And so there are still a lot of hot sauce blogs going strong on the internet, including yours, Ken.
Well, yeah, mine is still kind of the work in progress. It's, I've still very much got the day job to pay the bills, and over the last year, and we've talked about that in other segments, it kind of sucked a lot of my free time out from under me. But, I've been putting some more posts up recently and learning. It's, I was a new blogger. I'm not as tech savvy as some folks. So I'm having to learn, how to do things or what to do. But, I'm in the process of doing a revamp on the blog. And for me, it's just I like to write. I also like the videos. Before I started my own, I was originally doing video reviews for I Love It Spicy, and continue. I've got some reviews that I'll be recording this week for I Love It Spicy, and then I like to write, and so I approached Joe and Linda, and they kind of gave me a lukewarm kind of reception as to, well, okay, maybe, and they still had Jonathan Passouse writing for them then, so then I approached Brian and Marilyn Mayer with Hot Sauce Daily. I liked their content. I liked how they had their format, gracious folks, and said, hey, I'd love to submit something to you to see if you want to do a guest blog post on your blog. And they did. And I did that, I think, 2 or 3 times for them, and it was fun. And so, and decided to go ahead and try to give it a whirl. And so, you set up a WordPress site, and did a little bit, not enough homework on what blog site to use and those, and settled on WordPress. And so now I've got a starving college student redesigning my blog for me. Going to probably use it as a graphic design project, and putting a logo, finally getting some sort of formalized logo set up and masthead to where I can get some sort of continuity and look to the blog. So, for me, it's a hobby and it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's serving kind of a creative niche for me. I don't do as many reviews. I Love It Spicy. I know that Buddha has talked about kind of changing the format of I Love It Spicy. It hasn't come to pass yet, but since then, he hasn't solicited the number of reviews that he used to get. So, I don't do as many videos for him, and I've got a couple of reviews companies that sent me product that want video reviews. And so I'll start, out of respect for Buddha, I told him, okay, Buddha, I'll just stick to the written content and I'll do my videos for you. But now that I've got companies that want that want video reviews, I'll start doing some YouTube reviews and then putting them up on the blog.
Yeah. We kind of discussed this briefly before we started recording. What are some of the blogs that you frequent, and some of the hot sauce / spicy food / fiery food blogs that you know of that are out there?
For me, of course, you've got one of the longest running blogs that's out there. With your content. And I was, before even I got involved, as kind of part of the family of, in the fiery food family of folks. I use yours as a reference site, Hot Sauce Daily. I read Brian and Marilyn's stuff. I read everything they put out. And I like they've got kind of a newer format where they're doing a shortened review version, which I could probably take some lesson from. I get kind of windy in mine and write more probably than I should, and I could put more content out if I'd learn a way to abbreviate it a little better. But I love their site. The Fiery-Food, Dave DeWitt site, fiery-foods.com. I've been on his. Coincidentally, we were talking about, the hot sauce blog. When I go to his website, he's got recent reviews on the right-hand side, and I clicked on a couple, and it redirected me to Eat More Heat. So I don't know what that's about, but I used to like James Rex, some of his stuff. James has kind of a tongue-in-cheek manner about him. I never really watched much of the video casts that he used to do on a regular basis.
Yeah, he had more of a Jackass style, appealing to, the college-age kids, that type of thing. Yeah. Really not my cup of tea.
It wasn't my cup of tea either. I respected what he was doing, but it would get, for me, and I don't mean to sound prudish, but it would get a little rough for me. The language would get a little rough. I'm a pretty strong Christian, and so I kind of, there's limits there for me, and no disrespect to James. And like I said, his blog, it's fresh looking, it's clean, it's got a nice appeal, puts out, decent content. But that wasn't my cup of tea. Ryan Grob, Ryan kind of had a hiatus. I used to read when he would put stuff out on RG Sauce Review. Now he's kind of reinvented himself as Pepperfiend.
Yeah, Pepperfiend.com.
Yeah, Pepperfiend.com. So I'll go to Ryan's site. I go to Joe and Linda's Hot Zone Online. And they've been putting out some more content, it seems, lately, and they kind of gone to a baseball model, and I think he's calling it a baseball model. I can't really describe it well, but it's a more abbreviated review style.
Yeah, where the review based on the actual score is kind of like a single, a double, a triple, a home run.
Right. Thank you for refreshing my memory. That's exactly right. So, and when we were in Columbus in February for Fiery Food Show at North Market, I got to meet and spend some time with Joe and Linda, and just enjoyed spending some time over the weekend with them and learning more about kind of where their heads are at around everything. And so it gave, for me, it kind of personalized going to the site, going to their blog. So I enjoy it. As well. I know Matt Bauhaus. I think Matt is like me, has not been as consistent with his content.
And his site is heatintheheartland.com.
Oh, Heat in the Heart. Thank you. Heat in the Heart. What I forgot what I said, but I said that wrong. Heatintheheartland.com. Matt's got a nice style about him. He's honest, engaging, kind of matter of fact in his approach. And I know we talked about, I know in a segment that's coming up on social media, a lot of this has kind of gone to where video reviews are kind of based out of Facebook. I redirect my post to Facebook just so I can get more traffic, but really the goal is to get people into the blog. So I started reading some articles on things, and I know that in the blogging industry, what I read is people like shorter content, but they want consistent content. They want to start getting used to seeing your content and going to your blog at least several times a week. And so that's kind of the goal for me over the next few months as mine gets redesigned and reinvented, is to put some other things up. So I've looked at reblogging, looked at doing some other, like I said, I'll put video reviews up and some other content. I want to do some recipes and some things special just to kind of give it a little variety and see if I like it as well. The other one is my Michael Holtquist's site, Chili Pepper Madness. You had mentioned that before we went on the air, and I like Michael's style. I like his writing. I've downloaded one of his ebooks, which was I liked it a lot, and printed actually to the point where I printed it out. That's there. Who else? There was a couple others that we talked about.
There is the Burn blog, which is run by Dave DeWitt and a couple of his writers, which could be found at burn-blog.com. By the way, I'm going to put up links to all these in the show notes for this episode. So I know Ken and I are going to mention many, many links, but don't worry, just look at the show notes.
That's great. Yeah, it'll help me because I'll forget the ones that we've mentioned, Scott.
Yeah. One that we didn't mention in our little preamble was Chili Foundry, which for years has been very prolific in the amount of posts. Now, that is a UK-based site, so a lot of the products, a lot of the coverage is UK-based. But still, it's a must for any American spicy foods fan.
And thank you for bringing that. I'd forgotten the Chili Foundry, and for the listeners, it's Chili, Chilli. That's the kind of the European. It's not Chile or Chili. They put two L's in there, Chili, and two I's. So Chili Foundry, and that is a great site. That is a great site. I go there as well.
Yeah. And, of course, there's other little sites that kind of pop up here and there. Like I'd mentioned, some sites are frequently updated for about a year or so, and then they kind of die out. I do want to give a shout-out to Matt Legal. He has a Chili's France website, which could be found at firechilies.fr. And, of course, that is the UK European way of spelling chilies with LLI.
Right. Okay. For me, different areas, the small batch hot sauce makers, if they don't frequent some of the Facebook pages, some of those to where that, they start getting their name recognized or in that community, you don't know about them. Mm-hmm. There's so many hot sauce makers out there. And so the blogs, especially the ones that are more regionally based in different areas of the country, kind of bring their regions. They bring the hot sauces that are more germane to the Northwest or to the Northeast or to the South or to the Midwest to bear, I think. I don't know. Am I off base in that, or do you think that's fair assessment?
You know what? I really haven't noticed the regionality. Maybe only on occasion when something is only available in the Northeast. And just for example, Alberta Goldenberg's I Love It Spicy.com. He will have a manufacturer contact him, based out of Virginia or based out of New York or something like that, and be put up on the site. But the beautiful thing about the internet and blogs in general is the fact that they could reach a national audience. So a lot of these small artisan sauce makers or spicy food product makers could find a national audience that way.
Correct. Like for me, when I post, and I'll get usually depending on content that I post, I'll get more sauce makers that'll contact me saying, "Hey, I'd like you to review my products." They'll send me in like Eagle Wings. I did the Eagle Wings sausage post right around July 4th, and they're out of Delaware. Small batch sauce maker that has good product that sought me out. So I was tickled. Let me ask you this. One of the things that if there's bloggers listening, folks like myself or even others that may be curious, what do you think makes a blog appealing or the conversely unappealing?
Just in general, you have to get a sense that there is a real person or a real group of people behind it. It can't be this nameless, faceless thing where, everything could be designed slickly and have a beautiful look and layout, but there's no personality behind it. You have to get that personality to just make it work, to make it click. Now, it doesn't mean somebody has to be some big gonzo jackass, making an idiot of themselves type thing. But you have to get a real sense of what they like and what they don't like, almost to the point where they're just interjecting their own moods and styles into the reviews. And to me, that shapes the reviews, and in turn, that shapes the whole blog.
And you think and that's appealing?
That's very appealing to me. I would rather see that than just see,
kind of this robotic, sauce that just kind of goes through the paces without the personality of the blogger attached to it.
Exactly. No, okay. Anybody could hire somebody or even do a site themselves with just a slick design and look and layout, and just post a bunch of reviews.
Right.
But it's like, well, who is this guy? Who is the person behind this? Do we ever get to see any pictures? Right. And I think that's been a problem among many problems of bloggers, that they just fail to do that. Maybe they're just scared to be on the internet, to kind of expose themselves publicly.
Right.
They want to put themselves out there. They want to remain anonymous. But to me, they're just kind of boring.
Yeah, I think that's what helped me initially doing the reviews for I Love It Spicy is you see a face. So there was something to be said for the video reviews. But again, I like to write. And so, but that's good even for me as a relatively new blogger, Scott. That's good feedback for me to interject a little more of Ken. It's like the new logo that I have for Fiery World. I'm kind of known for wearing fedoras when I do my reviews. And I have loud chili pepper shirts from Jazz Fest that I wear a lot. And so, my new blog logo has a fiery kind of a pepper shaped globe with a fedora, with a sporting a fedora, kind of put some personality in. It's one of the things, I'll go back to a specific blog and not to slight anybody else, but Brian and Marilyn Mayer and Hot Sauce Daily, actually their blog was listed as one of the top 100 food blogs to watch for this year, for 2013. And they continue to mature, I think, in their content, and they play off of each other, and their personalities really do come out, I think, even in a short blog post. Just their writing style, their review style, they're always gracious. Even if they don't like a product, they're always gracious about the product, and they're never caustic to a maker. And I think that shows respect, and it kind of shows the class act that Brian and Marilyn are.
Absolutely. I cannot disagree with you. If there's any models to follow, it would be them at hotsaucedaily.com. It doesn't mean I'm going to follow them or take everything they do and just apply it to me. I'm still me. I'm still going to put my own little spin on things, my own little personality. I mean, that's not me 100%, but if anybody, is starting from scratch, they want to start their own hot sauce blog, take a look at what they're doing there.
Oh, I did. Even to some of the ways that I write things up, I looked at other blogs and said, okay, how are the reviewers structuring the reviews, and liked their style, and reached out to Brian and Marilyn and to Brian and said, do you mind if I copy some of what you're doing? as far as how I structure. Not so much robbing and plagiarizing, but just the structure of some of, heat and texture and flavor and some of those content areas. And it was like, no. And I had many phone conversations with Brian coaching me and helping me. And even now he'll read some posts and say, hey, that's great. Have you thought about doing this? Thought about doing that? And so very collaborative and just, can't appreciate him more than I do at the moment. So.
Exactly. This is going to be an extended segment. I don't care. We're talking about blogs. One last thing I wanted to hit on is the community of the hot sauce bloggers. Social media, social networking pretty much has taken the place of the community, and you can even extend it out to YouTube. But one of the big things, the big positive things, in the late 2000s, late aughts, whatever you call the decade, was the fact that us bloggers, it didn't matter if we disagreed on stuff, we all respected one another, and we were friends, at times close friends in real life. Even though we lived in different parts of the country, we would get together at Fiery Foods events, hot sauce festivals, shows, and it was almost like a family reunion. And I would also extend that out to a lot of the hot sauce makers. We were like one big family. And that sense of community still kind of thrives on the blogs.
I think so too. It's I kind of think back a year ago, May, when we were at Peppers on the beach and Brian and Marilyn kind of orchestrated the bloggers review, roundtable review. And that's, that was just a lot of fun for me. You heard a lot of different opinions and a lot of different views. You were able to take a takeaway, and it was a bonding event for me as a brand new blogger. With yourself and with Brian and Marilyn and with Buddha. I think Steve the Machine, Smallwood was kind of piping in there as well.
Yeah, Firehead Thomas Gately was there.
That's right. Firehead was there. Really, it really is. And so when I go to the events, and that's really the highlight, is if you haven't had the opportunity to go to a show that's really highlighting the small batch makers and where the bloggers are convening, I would encourage any of the listeners, all of your listeners, to make that, because it really kind of solidifies the community for you and kind of gets you into it at a level to where you understand the passion more. You understand why somebody will spend all of their free time and then some in their kitchen experimenting with recipes and pouring and sterilizing bottles and pouring sauce to go hit and spend all their weekends at farmers markets underneath an easy up, selling what they're doing in their kitchen as a passion. And it's it kind of gets it in your blood. And, I like to promote them. I like the food. So it's just kind of a natural marriage for me.
Yeah. And of course, when it comes to the hot sauce festivals and events, the ultimate example, at least it used to be, was the Weekend of Fire at Jungle Gyms in Fairfield, Ohio, the show there. I mean, we would have our own bloggers booth. We would get together and commune, and that would be our little base of operations. And you mentioned the Bloggers Roundtable. I mean, we had done a couple of those, with all the bloggers involved, and we will continue to do it for the weekly Firecast. We did it last year in October. Myself, Alberta Goldenberg, Joe and Linda Levinson, and Marilyn Mayer were all there. Right. And it was just that meeting of the minds, one of the really big things that I look forward to. We got to speak on whatever it was in the hot sauce industry, and those were just a blast to do.
Yeah, they are a blast. And I haven't made a Weekend of Fire. That's on the short list for me. So, are they having Weekend of Fire this year?
Yes, and it's the first weekend of October. Of course, for everybody looking right now, they could find that on my calendar at my website, scottrobertsweb.com/calendar.
Great. That's great. And again, this year I'll have to miss it. I have a niece getting married that same weekend, and family takes priority. So I'll be in Arkansas at a wedding.
It's understood, but
it is, and I hate it because I would love to be there. And I do, have plans to make the Houston, since I'm in South Louisiana, it's easy, the Houston show, and I'll be there all weekend for New Orleans. And, the festival organizers have been pretty good to the bloggers. Zest Fest, they allow us entry into the site and we cover it. I know that we did some joint interviews at Zest Fest, not this past one, but the one before in Dallas. And, Buddha then pushed those up on the, I'd send them to him and he pushed it up, festival coverage up pretty quickly, which helps the community kind of when they to live vicariously through us, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, we could probably go on forever about blogs, but we'll kind of wrap it up for this little segment.
All right. I know. Like I said, it's a passion. So you tend to talk a lot about that, of which you're passionate about. But it's been fun. I know I encourage people to go catch all of them. Google hot sauce blogs. Look on Facebook. You get a lot of links to Facebook. They can find us if they try just a little bit. So I would encourage everybody to go find your blog, find the ones you really enjoy, the ones that meet your preferences for how you like to hear about products that you may want to try, and show some loyalty, show some loves, and leave a comment once in a while. We always appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Ken.
All right, and thank you, Scott. Look, it's been a great discussion. I know we went a little longer than we normally do, almost interview length. So have fun in the editing booth.
I'll be here for days.
There we go. And with that, I'll leave your audience as always, and just remind them that, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is a fiery world.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ken. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
And thanks again, Ken. And I just wanted to take a moment to ask you, the audience, are there any blogs or websites that we happen to be forgetting? I know we've covered some of the major ones, but are there any either new ones or older ones that have some type of a focus on fiery foods that really need to be mentioned that you think everyone should know about? Maybe you have your own blog you're trying to get promotion for. Let us know about it. Just fill out the contact form at either weeklyfirecast.com or at twoguystalking.com/firecast and let us know what food blogs did we forget. All right, we're going to take a little commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to be speaking with Connecticut-based hot sauce maker, Chef Doug Crane of Dragon's Blood Elixir. So stick around.
Fighting isn't just something I was doing when I was a kid. It's followed me into adulthood. Not so much the beatdowns at work or finishing off bullies that scratch my car. I'm Mike Wilkerson. I'm hosting Two Guys Talking MMA, a completely original perspective review podcast detailing the events showcased on Fox Sports 1's The Ultimate Fighter. Join me and my co-host, MMA's Adam Sella, in a literal cavalcade of guest fighters, promoters, and more, where we'll talk about the show, the fighters, the fights, and more. It's a completely different flavor of fight review, and it's only from Two Guys Talking. Witness the carnage, the perspectives, and fun at twoguystalkingmma.com. That's twoguystalkingmma.com.
Wouldn't it be cool if advertising for your food or barbecue-related company could last forever? It can with perpetual advertising. Here's how it works. Unlike TV or radio ads where every instance the ads are broadcast are only played once and lost forever, perpetual advertising, on the other hand, can have repeat exposure and replayability for weeks, months, and even years after they're inserted in a weekly Firecast podcast. So, even if a podcast is a few months or even a few years old, your ads will still be impactful to repeat listeners as well as new listeners who download and listen to the show. This gives your advertising dollar the most bang for the buck. You can find out more about perpetual advertising sponsorship opportunities by filling out the simple web form at twoguystalking.com/firecast. That's the numeral 2, guystalking.com/firecast.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli. Don't miss our interview with Michael the Grinder Mizrachi in our most recent episode of TwoGuysTalkingPoker.com.
Are you a vampire fan? How about werewolves? Then you're probably already watching True Blood on HBO, but are you listening to the review of each episode of True Blood via the Fangbanger podcast? Check out great point-by-point discussion that leaves you with a thirst for more. It's the Fangbanger podcast. Fangbangerpodcast.com. That's fangbangerpodcast.com.
Do you consider yourself to be a chilihead and want to find some hot new gear to wear?
Oh yeah!
Look no further than chiliheadtees.com. If you're a heat freak and love hot sauce, chili peppers, or anything dealing with fiery and spicy foods, this is the place to get t-shirts to show off your obsession. Chili Head Tees is dedicated to giving you the hottest t-shirts, mouse pads, mug, aprons, and more for the discriminating chili head. Go to chiliheadtees.com. That's CHILEHEADSTEES.com.
And welcome back, all you chili heads and barbecue fanatics. Here is my chat with Chef Doug Crane of Dragon's Blood Elixir. Enjoy it.
And now, the Fire Talkers interview.
Today I'm on a Skype chat line talking with Chef Doug Crane. How's everything going with you?
Oh, it's quite well, thank you.
Now, whenever somebody comes to me and says, hey, Scott, what is a really good brand of hot sauce to try? Of course, there are some of the really famous brands out there in the specialty food community. But I think one brand that hardly anyone ever mentions, one of the really, really underrated ones, is Dragon's Blood Elixir. Now, and I think it's about time, and of course, my friend and chili head, firehead Thomas Gately is a big fan of yours as well. I know he's been kind of bugging me to get you on a podcast too. But I wanted to give you some exposure because you certainly make a line of hot sauces and condiments that are just completely, and when I say this, it's a compliment, completely off the beaten path. You really can't find anything quite like your products. So what I wanted to do is, first I wanted to kind of reach back into your history. How did you get involved in the whole culinary world?
Well, I was an apprentice back in the 70s in a New Orleans restaurant learning French cooking techniques, and I followed the career path: apprentice, first cook, chef. I had my own restaurants for a while, and then when you start hurt after about the 30th year in the business, you get behind the desk as a food service director, and that didn't work well at all. I'm not a manager, so I had always planned to make hot sauces in retirement, and I said, well, I'm not going to wait. Let's do it right now. So I refinanced my house and jumped right in.
Oh, you went in with both feet, huh?
Yeah, no looking back.
Wow, that's a pretty gutsy move. A lot of people will just, hang on to their full-time job and just try to do this on the side, and, they kill themselves. All the time that they spend, of course, with their family and everything, too, and a lot of them end up having to drop out of the business because of that. But, yeah, you just jumped right in to do that. Have you always been a big fan of, hot sauces? Would you consider yourself to be a big chili head?
Now, that's interesting. When I was cooking, hot peppers were not a mainstay in my cuisine. I made chili, I made some of the spicy New Orleans-style cooked dishes, but it wasn't until the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, that I started making salsas and hot sauce. So it's pretty late in the season. When I did decide to do this full-time, there was a great degree of confidence in the flavors that I was making because I had been making hot sauce in the restaurant and in the schools that I cooked for. So I had a built-in tasting panel. And so when I started the business, I had a pretty good idea of what flavors were going to work. But that was that wasn't my original plan in cooking.
So what ended up being your first hot sauce? Was it regular Dragon's Blood?
Well, it wasn't the Dragon's Blood, yes. I had made a 5-gallon pail of fresh salsa that I was giving away at the restaurant, selling and giving away. And it started to ferment after a while. And so I put it in a roasting pan, and I roasted it in the oven. And the result was so flavorful that I bottled it up. And that was the start. I found in a tag sale, I found the rubber stamp that I use as my logo. And so it's always been the Dragon's Blood Elixir and the rubber and the dragon logo all came together on the same weekend.
Very interesting. I love that logo, by the way, and the whole art thing. Well, back to the product. Did you end up having to tweak that first recipe at all, or has it pretty much been the same?
The flavor profile, where the salsa is one of the main flavoring agents, has been constant. The people that make the salsa has changed over the years. I can't make enough, so I tend to rely on local producers that make salsa. The apples, the apple cider, the habaneros are all local products, and they were all part of the original plan. But it did over the years. It became more and more refined.
And then finally, what you have right now, those listening who have never tried Dragon's Blood Elixir, the main sauce, go ahead and describe the flavor profile.
Oh, it's a sneaky heat. Sweet, slightly sweet apple cider, sneaky heat with the habaneros. It's an everyday sauce. This is the kind of stuff that I would love to see you use instead of the thin red industrial sauces from the grocery store.
And, of course, I don't know if you remember, whenever I had first tried it, you'd send a bottle or two for me to review. Just on a whim, I was thinking, you know what, I'm just going to taste this on video for the very first time. Back then, whenever it was, like 4 years ago or so, videos weren't as big as they were nowadays. Nowadays, every guy and his dog has a YouTube channel and they're trying sauces. But I tried it, and I just remember being blown away. It was completely not what I was expecting it to be. But yeah, you have that really tart kind of apple flavor. You have the salsa flavor going on, but it's just such a unique and delicious mix of everything. And I thought, wow, that the company could really go places.
Well, I remember you were pretty startled. There was a great look on your face during that video.
Yeah, those kind of reactions, they can't be scripted. But yeah, it's good stuff. I'm going to have to order some more. It kind of reminds me to do that. So from then on, what was the next product that you created?
I did a Unique Destiny Chipotle sauce. And the original plan was that Unique Destiny was going to be the name of the sauce, but then somehow it's morphed into that as my brand name for all the rest of the sauces. So the Chipotle sauce is a very, very strong smoke, 40 to 42% Chipotle solids, as opposed to some of the sauces that are thin, that have maybe 5%. And I've got no patience with that. This is very texturally aggressive. You pour it on something and it's going to stay where you pour it. Then I did a Caribbean mustard sauce, which was in response to not being able to get the Inner Beauty hot sauce anymore. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty pleased with that one. It went over well. I did a roasted garlic sauce. I did a jalapeño sauce. These were all fully labeled. I invested a good deal of money in the labeling process. And then I found out that as a small bottler, I can get an exemption and not have to put all of my nutritionals on the label. So at that point, coupled with the direct sales that I was doing at the farmers markets and using farmers market produce, fruits and vegetables that I see on the farmers market table, I moved into a small batch arrangement where something I could make a batch of sauce and not worry about it running out because I can make it again, but it would be slightly different. Mm-hmm. So, and that seems to have become the focus, which is not something that I anticipated.
From there, you have since created some specialty sauce flavors. Had the base sauce for those specialty sauces, are they pretty much the same as what's in the original Dragon's Blood Elixir?
I seem to have gotten away from the salsa-based sauces. There are four of the fully labeled sauces are the same salsa base, but with different flavor components. I use a good deal of the fruits and vegetables that I find in the markets. Fresh peaches, fresh nectarines when I can get them. The berries are starting to come in here, so I've done a berry ginger recently that was very good. Sold right out. During the fall, I'll do pumpkins, butternut squash, that kind of stuff. That's what the seasonal aspect of this is fascinating to me. I don't use as much salsa in these specialty sauces.
Okay. Because just looking at the ingredients themselves, and also just from a taste, it does, remind one, it's like, oh, that does have that Dragon's Blood Elixir hints of that in there. But of course, the extra added ingredients, make them their own sauces. The mango ginger, of course, I immediately think of, Asian, and it's good in its own way, but yeah, it does have hints of the original sauce, I think.
The Dragon's Blood Elixir is the everyday sauce. That's the one that'll stand up for anything you want to put it on. Use it as a cooking ingredient or slather it on something. It stands on its own. The other sauces are pretty pointed as far as culinary usage. As you say, the mango ginger and the peach ginger, they're the duck sauce with an attitude. Mm-hmm. And they cry out for fried rice and stir fries.
It's very good on those, by the way. What about For Whom the Bell Tolls? What kind of flavor profile were you aiming with that one?
That I wanted the peppers to shine through there. That's a blend of 12 to 15 different peppers, all grown here locally including some of the hottest peppers. At the time, they were the hottest peppers available. I ran into a very secretive hot pepper grower, and it irresistibly reminded me of a drug deal. He'd show up with a bushel basket or a big paper bag full of these peppers, and say, "Hey, look what I got today." They were irresistible. I couldn't pass them up. So I cooked them minimally and pureed them coarsely and put them in apple cider vinegar. I like to use the cider vinegars, and the slightly sweet flavor of the cider seems to bring nice flavors out. And I let the peppers shine through, so you could see all the textural chunks of the pepper. And if you bite down on one of the chunks, it becomes quite a bit hotter sauce. People loved it. And so I bought as many peppers as he could bring by, and I've subsequently had farmers at the farmer's market growing them for me. So this year we'll be adding the Maru, the Scorpion, and the 7-pot Douglas to the mix.
Do you think that's going to change the flavor profile slightly by adding newer peppers?
No, I don't think. I think it'll add to the heat level, but it should, with all the other peppers in there, it should retain its flavor, where each pepper seems to catch a different part of the tongue, top of the roof of the mouth, back of the throat.
Oh, I can't forget the condiment from hell. What's the story behind that one?
That's what it was. Actually, the name came first. I felt that ketchup was the condiment from hell. I hated to serve it in the restaurants and in the schools. I wanted the food that I made to stand on its own without being slathered with a sticky, sweet condiment. So I made an alternative, and it's that had a local horseradish in it. I used some of the smoky Chipotle pepper, and to try and spike the flavor profile of this condiment from hell. Mm-hmm. And it was so well received that I made a batch of it and called it the condiment from hell, and put it out in bottles on the counter, and it actually was eaten quicker than the regular ketchup. So it was one of the ones that I had to do.
Yeah. It's interesting that you took that derogatory name and turned it into something positive. Now, people think from hell, it's like, oh, it's going to be hellfire and everything.
Well, it's part of it's the picture. You know, if you look at the label with the fiery trident coming out of the flame background, it was a very arresting looking label, and people they think it's going to be really hot. So you have to tell them that it's warm, it's zesty. It's not a hot sauce at all. And if they're willing to try it, then they'll come back for more.
So if you would cook for somebody and they would put this on the food, you wouldn't be offended, would you?
No, I've gotten over that. I'd love to see people using hot sauce. But my plan, what I'd love to see is that the flavor of these sauces become the cornerstones of the dinner. When we're doing the tastings, I like to offer what I've done with the sauces or what I think you could do with them. I ask people what they're having for dinner. And I like to steer people toward a flavor that I think would enhance their dinner plans. If somebody's doing grilled chicken for dinner, then I would like the maple roasted apple. It's a great grilling sauce. Or the Peter Piper's pickle sauce, salsa verde, is a great topping sauce for their grilled chicken. Or if they're looking to do some kind of oriental, then the new Vidalia peach sauce would be very nice with that. So I offer menu suggestions, a way to like a hook for their dinner. What is the flavor component that you're looking to do? Mm-hmm. And if people respond to that, they ask, they say, well, now that I bought it, what can I do with it? And that's actually where my culinary background comes in to great play. I'm able to, or I like to, offer these suggestions.
Now, as far as the specialty sauces, and you mentioned several there, are they available at any given time, or are they just seasonal? How could people try those?
Okay, now, on the website, there is a specialty sauce page, and that has some of the most popular ones that I've sourced the ingredients through and I make all the time, or make quite frequently. They're always available, some sauces that have not been posted, and I encourage people to write to me to find out what they are. The roster changes all the time. These small batch sauces can be, as little as 36 bottles in a run as a prototype, and they tend to sell out at the farmers markets over the weekend. If I post on the farmers market page that I'm bringing, say, the a berry ginger using the fresh berries that are just coming into season here.
Mm-hmm.
I have people lining up waiting to taste this new sauce. And they know that it's going to run out, and so they'll buy 2 bottles, they'll buy 3 bottles, which kind of just makes it that much quicker.
Yeah, and it makes you run out faster.
Well, so I go and I make something else the next week. Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're one of those rare hot sauce makers whose every product that you've made that I've tasted has tasted great. Now, I know you've sent me a 4-pack of something about a year ago, and I mean, I get so many products in, I would love to review everything, and I wanted to review these products. And then looking at your site again, you have more that I like to taste. So, again, you kind of urge people to write in and inquire about these particular specialty sauces?
Yes, we just launched a Sauce of the Month Club, which will get some of these sauces or make them available to people that get the newsletter. I did the Vidalia Peach. That was the Sauce of the Month this month. Last month was a Balsamic Dragon, which was a salsa verde style sauce using balsamic vinegar instead of apple cider vinegar, and a pepper mash that was donated by my customers last fall. I call that a stone soup pepper mash. I've sent them all over the country. People are responding. Lately, now Jim Duffy has bought some sauce, and he's been raving about a couple of special sauces, and he's got half the population of California is writing to find out what is available.
Yeah, he's one of those types of people. He will just buy cases of sauces and give them out, and perks everyone's interest in it. So, you have a Hot Sauce of the Month Club on your website. That's good. Usually, I kind of urge people to stay away from those because it's just regular online stores. You never know what kind of crap that they're going to throw in month to month. But since, like I said, everything I've tasted of yours is great, that would be one I would urge everyone to get into, just to try out something every month, see what they like. And
well, you have a choice. The way it's set up is that you get 2 bottles of sauce for the price, for it's $20 shipping included. You get the sauce of the month, and that's described and with a couple of menu suggestions, and then your choice of another sauce, a go-to, or something else you'd like to try. So every month, and it's a voluntary. It's not you're not paying your money and getting charged every month automatically. It's strictly voluntary every month.
Good deal. Of course, they can go to dragonsbloodελixir.com to get that. And I'll put the link in the show notes for everybody. And your Facebook page is, I assume it's facebook.com/dragonsbloodelixir as well?
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and send everybody there to those sites. Anything else you want to mention before we get off the call?
No, I'd just like to say hello and just my greetings to everybody. We're all in this together. We're all waging the crusade against supermarket hot sauce. So I think we need to support each other. And I want to thank you for for your first reaction said it all. I was so impressed. That gave me a lot of confidence in the flavors.
Oh, well, I want to thank you for that good surprise.
All right, Scott, thank you very much for asking me to do this.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much, Chef Doug Crane. It's been a pleasure. Again, everybody, the website is dragonsbloodελixir.com. Some really great and unique products. Hope you have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right.
Again, it probably sounds like I'm overpraising the guy, but he is a true maestro when it comes to flavors, and I love just about every product he's come up with. And by all means, when you're able to, run over to dragonsbloodελixir.com, pick up a few bottles. If you want some good heat, but terrific flavor, you won't go wrong there. And as usual, I'll put the link in the show notes for that website. Just look for episode number 42. My product review again was Johnny Secreto BBQ Sauce. And for more information on that, you can go to johnnysecreto.com or johnnysecreto.com, depending on how you pronounce it. And that too is in the show notes. And also for all the websites that Ken and I talked about, all the hot sauce blogs, I'm going to put up the links to all the major ones that are still active. So those will be in the show notes for episode 42 as well. And to find these show notes, if you just happen to start listening to this podcast, subscribe via iTunes or some other method, you can find those at a couple of places. One, at the main podcast site at weeklyfirecast.com, or at the podcast network site at the numeral 2, guystalking.com. And if you go to that last website, 2guystalking.com, just find the Weekly Firecast link, and all the past shows are listed. Just look for the one with the interview with Chef Doug Crane. And while we're speaking about websites, don't forget to go over to my main blog at scottrobertsweb.com. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, you can do so at youtube.com/user/scottrobertsweb. You can also like my Facebook presence at facebook.com/scottrobertsweb. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/scottroberts. So if you type in either Scott Roberts or Scott Roberts Web in just about any search engine, just about any social media site, you'll find me right at the top of the results. It's easy to find me everywhere. And don't forget, I want to hear from you. Whether it's feedback about the show or you just want to ask me a question, simply go to the aforementioned links either at weeklyfirecast.com or the numeral 2guystalking.com/firecast. Fill out the super simple web forms and tell me what's on your mind. So that's it for episode 42 of the Weekly Firecast. God bless you, everyone. And until next time, remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/weeklyfirecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.